Before leaving, please remember to make a contribution to all of my thousands of hours of work here, PayPal, Patreon, or fundraiser in the description below or on the China Rising Radio Sinoland article page. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jeff J. Brown, China Rising Radio Sinoland. And without further ado, I'm going to go 5 hours to the east to the beautiful Kingdom of Thailand. And we have on the show today Godfree Roberts. How are you doing, Godfree?
I'm very well, thank you, Jeff.
For those of you who know China Rising, I have had Godfree on this show 9 times already. Today will be number 10, and there's a reason for that, and that's because Godfree knows what he's talking about. And when it comes to China, and with my years of experience there, and him starting his experience in China back in the 1960s, together we always have really wonderful conversations about China. So thank you for being on the show for the 10th time, Godfree.
Great to be here.
The reason, and by the way, there's a noise in the background. Godfree just told me he's in Chiang Mai. In fact, we got to be, my wife and I started to retire there, and were there for almost a year, and had to come back here to France for family reasons. And the noise you're hearing is the rain on his roof. And in Chiang Mai, when it rains, it pours. And so what you're hearing is a heavy, heavy rain in Chiang Mai. Luckily, they don't last forever. So I'm sure the hissing, the raining sound will go away. Anyway, the reason I have Godfree on the show today is we are going to talk about his new book entitled Why China Leads the World, Talent at the Top, Data in the Middle, Democracy at the Bottom. I bought the ebook, so I can't show it to you, but I will put the link here. I read it, and I've decided that the best way to structure this interview, after reading his amazing book, was to ask him 9 must-know yet probably don't know things about the Chinese nation. 3 in the past, 3 in the present, and 3 in the future. So we'll go that way. But before we get started, I also subscribe to Godfree's new newsletter that called Here Comes China. And you can get I will also put the link on the China Rising page for this interview, with this discussion with Godfree. You can get the latest issue for free. You can download the latest issue for free, or you can sign up without paying anything and get 4 issues for free. And I highly recommend it. I love getting it in my email every week. So anyway, Godfree, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right. 3 things in the past. The first thing that we're going to talk about is China has been an intellectual meritocracy for 2,000 years. Take it away.
Yeah, I've just been delving into a lot of European history, which I find equally fascinating, and it has been a meritocracy of its own type. We're sort of used to it. It's a meritocracy of murderers and robbers. And literally, I mean, that's how you got to the top, by killing people and stealing stuff. And that went on for 2,000 years. And to some degree, we're still doing that. That's our style. And we sort of admire people who get to the top the hard way, as we call it. So it's very difficult for people to grasp the idea that there's a different way of you can have a different kind of meritocracy. And that's the one that Confucius recommended. And by some sheer miracle, the first emperor of China actually adopted. I mean, I still boggle at this. He thought it was a great idea. He had good reasons for his own purposes of adopting it. And gradually they've been refining it for the last 2,000 years. In fact, the kids just came out of the Gaokao, the beginning of their meritocratic climb to the top. 10 million kids sat for that exam. And that's how you get to be to the top of China, is by being very, very bright, working very, very hard, and helping an awful lot of people. That hasn't changed in 2,000 years.
Yeah, and sublimating your individual Marlboro man tendencies for the greater good, starting with the family, and then the neighborhood, and then the community, and then the town, city, village, and then the province, and then the region, and then the country, and then the leadership at the top,
Yep.
The exact opposite of the triangle of individualism, Marlboro man in the West. Absolutely. All right, number 2, except for the addition of the People's Congress, the political system is unchanged in 2,000 years. Take it away.
Okay. Yeah, this is, well, I mean, so is ours. So I don't want to make it sound exotic or weird. Our system hasn't changed. The United States, for example, is a Roman republic. On either side of the speaker's rostrum, you will see the fasces, the bound rods of the Senatus and the Populusque Romanus in America today. We haven't changed. It's a republic, and neither has China. The Chinese have been pretty much continually refining their model. Daniel Bell, who's one of my favorite scholars of China, pointed out that they've been cutting down on nepotism steadily. Every 1,000 years it comes down by 50%. And this current government is doing extremely well. They're down to about 7 or 8% of the current senior officials have a relative who's been in government. So that's been a goal for literally that they have pursued steadily for thousands of years. So talk about continuity, they've got it.
Yeah. It really is true, and as when we get to the 3 presents, where you talk about democracy, we will definitely have something to say. And I would like to point out that Chinese, the political system is based on ethics, which is basically the Confucian golden rule: do unto others as you want them to do unto you, or don't, more importantly, don't do unto others what you do not want done to you. The negative, I think, is even more powerful. That's all it is. Whereas the Western system is based on morals. My morals are different than your morals, and my morals are better than yours. They're superior to yours, and you need to adopt my morals. You need to adopt my or I'll kill you. Moral system. And so that's the difference. The golden rule versus my Bible is better than your Bible. Catholics and Protestants and Orthodox, and it goes on and on and on, and splinters and splinters and splinters, and thousands of sects, and SECTS, not SEX, and so that's why there's such a huge difference in the mentality of the leadership in the best of times and in the worst of times. So very well put. All right. China's moral, maybe this is where you're going to get into Confucius. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Godfrey. China's moral code is unchanged in 2,000 years. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, it's again our moral code, West. We've had a sort of moral code. You can find it particularly in the works of Caesar Augustus, but it's never bound the top people, nor have we ever expected the top people to be bound by moral code. Kings never were. They were always above the law and so on. And it had no foundation, no practical foundation. It was just a moral code. Confucius' moral code begins with the family. It begins with you, your older brother, your mother, your father, your grandmother, grandfather, your ancestors, the clan seniors, the local townships, all of whom are expected to care for you, and you are expected to defer to them in the most natural way that, families do. So the family model of deference and service and cooperation, Confucius just expanded that all the way out to the very limits of the state. Xi Jinping is often spoken of as being paternalistic. Well, he is. He's the father of the damn state.
Yeah.
And he's expected to behave like it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I call the Chinese leadership Baba Beijing, because it is very paternalistic, and the people expect the leadership of Baba Beijing to govern as like a huge. The nation is one gigantic family. The Chinese nation is one gigantic family of 1.4 billion people, which is a lot different than the Marlboro Man, rugged individual, ethic in the West, which can be good and can be satisfying and can produce some amazing results, but in terms of social cohesiveness and cooperation, it's like two different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, let's move to the present. 3 in the present. China is the world's #2 democracy. So which one is #1? And tell us about China's.
Well, I rank Switzerland's as #1, but it's very Swiss. It's very expensive. Takes an enormous amount of time, takes immense amount of education of kids beginning in primary school, costs a lot of money, and it works. The Swiss are full of complaints, of course, about it, but in fact, when you survey them, and they don't see a big gap between their ideal of democracy and what's actually happening in Switzerland. So that hats off to them, for that investment. And the #2 state that doesn't see it sees a bigger gap, but still thinks that democracy is just as important as the Swiss do, are the Chinese.
Yeah.
And by the way, that survey was done by NATO, of all people. Almost twice as many Chinese think democracy is important compared to Americans. Twice as much importance they place on it. So, they're into it. And if you measure a simple way, the bottom line is democratic outcomes. Does it deliver what you want? 32% of Americans say yes. 96.5% of Chinese say yes.
Yeah, it's 3 times as much. Yeah.
We could dig out deeper and ask more detailed questions, but that's pretty much it.
Well, and I've seen it in action. I mean, I lived there for 16 years, and I saw the voting. I saw the candidates, posted on walls in the neighborhood, and they're vetted, and they have to go through the public can question them and pump them full of questions. Another interesting thing that everybody thinks, you have to be a member of the Communist Party. Well, the fact of the matter is that most of the local representatives at the village and neighborhood level are not communists. They are not a member of the Communist Party. They're just, workers and entrepreneurs and shopkeepers and farmers and et cetera, and much more than most of Western Europe and the United States and Canada and elsewhere. 1/3 of the National People's Congress is not a member of the Communist Party. So I've seen it. It's vibrant. In your book, Why China Leads the World, you go into a lot of detail about it, and I've seen it, and no one can sit there and say, "Oh, that's not true." I've seen it. I mean, I have watched it and lived it. So I totally agree. And then tell the fans out there about the Jimmy Carter Center and their involvement in certifying Chinese democracy.
Oh, it's one of the best kept secrets in the world is that Jimmy Carter's been there for 25 years, and he has this big center in Beijing. They work with the Chinese government every day on educating people, overseeing elections, helping them stop cheating. Because the Carter Center has worldwide operations, and they're good at catching cheats, all kinds of stuff. And in fact, Xi Jinping just gave them a fresh mandate. He said, look, let's make democracy work. We don't want it to be just decorative. It's got to solve people's problems. So you guys, get stuck into it. So, they're really serious about it.
And also for the people who don't know, there are 900,000 local elections in China. So I find it vibrant. I find it responsive. You and I have both talked about how the National People's Congress proposed a law to allow genetic modified organisms in China, and the law was posted, and there was such a hue and a cry that I think something like a third of the people were against GMO, and as a result, there's no GMO. The GMOs were banned in China. So and that's just one of hundreds of examples of, as you say, does democracy deliver what the people want? And I know for a fact, and you know it, that in China it does deliver, and that goes all the way back to Mao. Mm-hmm. So in the 1950s. So all right, here's another one that will surprise a lot of people. China has the world's best mass media. Go for it.
Well, from the beginning, our Western media has been privatized. It just happened that the invention of the printing press coincided with the invention of what you might call venture capital. And almost all of the early presses were in private hands and were used for turning out basically scandal sheets, blackmailing people, getting into political squabbles, and so forth. There was very, very heavy censorship then, as there is today. But that's, it hasn't changed much. Western media is the way it was 400 or 500 years ago. Chinese media began a lot earlier. Mass media began 500 years earlier, and it was under the patronage of the government, and the government saw it as useful. So they printed hundreds of thousands of different editions of manuals on irrigation, crop propagation, preservation, and so forth, and distributed them, and uplifting tracts of Confucius. And by the way, the local officials were supposed to deliver a sermon every 2 weeks to the local people on these little sermons, about Confucius, this and that. So these days they have a chief censor, as they've always done. Very interesting guy. He's like our Noam Chomsky, but imagine someone half Noam Chomsky's age. Very bright TV star, famous academic, famous author, and he publishes his rules. He's got 10 things you can't do, and they all make sense. I mean, nobody would object to them. They're in the book. And if you don't like his decision on something, you can complain, and he'll explain. Yeah, for example, Fan Bingbing, the actress,
He got
who made
caught.
she got caught pinching $23 million worth of untaxed income,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody, of course, came down on it. Yeah, you can imagine a pile-on of outraged young Chinese netizens, and the censor just cut it off. He said, "Shut up." He said, "She's a kid. She was advised by crooks. She's never done anything wrong in her life before. Leave her alone." That's the end of it. That's how censorship works there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also the censorship we have. Well, you and I both know. You and I are both censored every day
Yeah.
in our work, and so us and millions of others around the world. YouTube, Twitter, Google. It just goes on and on and on and on. And books being suppressed like yours and mine. But the foundation of Chinese media and censorship is that the media is to be a force of goodness for society, and people cannot upset the social harmony, nor can they threaten economic prosperity for all. And that's basically it. I mean, that's why I can't go out, and hold up a sign in Tiananmen Square and say that Xi Jinping is a jerk, because first of all, it's pointless. It doesn't prove anything, but I can go to my local committee and either verbally or in writing say I think Xi Jinping is a jerk, and so you just to be flamboyant like all this crap going on with Trump and Biden and Kamala Harris and it's just trashy, salacious, sordid soap opera sewage. It's just nonstop. The Chinese don't mess with that kind of stuff. I mean, if you want to talk about that kind of stuff at the dinner table, it's fine, but not on Tiananmen Square, and not on TV, and not on the radio, and not in mass print. So social harmony comes first, and your personal grievances, need to be channeled through the local committees, etc. So absolutely agree with you. All right, number 3. Ooh, this is in the present. This is going to upset a lot of people. China has the world's most powerful military. Bang, bang, bang. Go for it.
Yeah, we've been fed a lot of baloney about our military. It's never won a war. It's always been a day late and a dollar short in any big war, and it's been beaten by people, with sharp sticks and bicycles
like in Vietnam.
Repeatedly.
And Korea.
Yes, the only time they've ever faced even a well-armed volunteer force was in Korea, and the Chinese whipped their asses. Right now, of course, the ground forces are much bigger, and their morale is 10 times better. The Navy is much bigger, and most people don't know this, but it's much more powerfully armed. No American ship can come within striking range of a Chinese ship. They're outgunned in every category. And the Air Force, of course, China can handle any Air Force within 1,000 miles of its coast. And the Chinese rocket force is vastly superior.
Missiles are just unbelievable.
Oh,
you and I have both reported on it. It's just unreal.
Yeah.
Some of them are. Yeah, the DF-21D and all these others. It's just hypersonic gliders and.
Yeah.
The other big thing that is important to realize is that China does not have to project its military in the Middle East or Latin America or Africa or the rest of Asia or Europe, whereas the United States, as a global empire, has to project its military might, and 1,000 military base. I've heard everything from 600 to 1,000, but anyway, 600 to 1,000 military bases. Did you just read the article about how there's 60,000 secret soldiers? There's an army of 60,000 secret soldiers that no one even knew about. I reported on the fact that going back to Bush, George W. Bush, and probably sooner, I think maybe it was even before him, there are about 135 secret armies that the White House guides all over the world, and they make decisions on where they want to go in and do false flags and assassinations and blow up stuff and kill people. And there's 135 of those. China doesn't have to do any of that. All they have to do is maintain their borders, which is part of the heavenly mandate. Protect our borders, to protect our people, to protect our social harmony, to protect our economic prosperity. It's like one big virtuous loop, and let the Americans come and try to land, in Shanghai or Dalian or Guangzhou or
Taiwan
Taiwan. I mean, it's just it's hard to believe. But that when you're the empire like the United States, and I'm sure the Romans were the same way, you have to project invincibility. You have to project. The propaganda has to show you as unbeatable and infallible and et cetera. So I think you and I both joked in an email. They ought to just go ahead and invade Taiwan and get it over with.
Yeah, I wish they would.
Because the Americans wouldn't be able to do a damn thing to stop them. That's for sure.
Nothing.
All right, 3 in the future, and this was a really interesting part of your book. This year, China will launch 4 new industries, complete with intellectual property, software, hardware, security, and platforms. That is 1, the Internet of Things; 2, quantum secure networks; 3, smart cities; and 4, blockchain services network, which includes, of course, the Chinese version of Bitcoin. By their very nature, each will create thousands of fortunes and hundreds of thousands of industries in lucrative applications worldwide. Please expand on that, Godfrey.
Well, they're all fun and games, but I'll just mention one to give people an idea of how the Chinese they've been building cities at the rate of 1 a month, 1 San Francisco every month for the last 70 years.
Yeah, since the Mao era. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they know something about cities. And some of the great cities of China, historically great cities of China, are some of the most beautiful and just gorgeous. So they're very attuned culturally to urban development, urban life, and so forth. So they said to themselves recently, well, we've all this, 70 years, we've learned all these things about urban environment, urban air quality, urban transportation, et cetera, Why don't we put it all together with all this new technology, video and smart cars and self-driving taxis and infrastructure, put it all together and build a completely smart city that makes people's lives, makes them twice as productive, just takes all the friction out, all the hassle and the noise, the dirt, the fear, gets rid of all that friction so that you can walk to work in the morning and the loudest sound you'll hear is birds tweeting. When you get there, the building is expecting you. the elevator is waiting. It takes you straight to your floor, etc. Stuff like that. And that more than 2/3 of the city is woodland and water. And that it's designed to catch the prevailing winds, the whole city, to catch and make use of the prevailing winds to keep a nice natural airflow going and so on and so forth. And that if you need a taxi, it comes automatically. It has no driver. It's electrical. It can, because all the signals in the city are coordinated, it'll just take you there as quickly as possible. So, oh, well, that'd be cool. So, but of course, being Chinese, they said, of course, it has to pay for itself. There's no free lunch. So they issued a 35-year bond to build this new city. It'll pay itself off in productivity. The idea is to give the residents of the new city a productivity advantage, somewhat like the English people had in 1810, the Industrial Revolution. Remember, they just far outstripped the rest of the world. And the standard of living, of course, of the rich people, just went through the roof because their productivity.
While everybody else starved to death.
Everybody, exactly. So that's what this city will do, and increased taxes will pay off the bond. And the city opens, I think it will open in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's Xiong'an. It's Xiong'an, the new capital, the new administrative capital outside to the east of. I've actually been out there. Back when we were living there. It's near. What's that? There's this neighborhood out to the east of Beijing where Florence and I actually acted, and our daughter acted in a movie out there. And a little further out is where is Xiong'an. It's like 50 kilometers outside of Beijing, and the pictures are just unreal. It's just really spectacular, and the vision and the work they put into it. And where else could this happen? I mean, where else could this happen?
And what people don't realize is it's a showroom.
Yeah.
Every town planner on planet Earth has set their watches for this. They are all going to see it. They all want to see how they do it. And of course, the salesmen are going to be crawling all over and say, you want the TV with the automated subsidy? Yeah, we can plug that in. We got that, we can license it to you. We can build it for you. We can set up a plant. It's one of the biggest sales promotion things in world history.
Yeah, for Chinese, for communist socialist China, compared to global capitalism, not even a fair fight. Not even a fair fight. No. So, well, listen, Godfrey, your book, and I will repeat the title again. Tell us. I know you and I have both. What is the status of your book on Amazon? I know they have stopped you from advertising. I know, or is it Facebook has stopped you from advertising?
I have good news.
Okay.
Good news. They were actually pretty good. They were tough, but they really got stuck into it with me. Did you write all this stuff yourself? I said, yeah. Here it is. I already published it on Jeff Brown's damn website before I put it in the book. And I showed them everything and, the whole provenance of it. And they said, oh, okay. So I'm cool. They said, green-lighted me for advertising. The book is for sale on Amazon, and it's selling very nicely. I'm happy to say.
Very good.
And by the way, I just sent you the new cover. So if you would put that on the website, I'd be deeply grateful.
Are you talking about to my email? You just emailed it to me?
Okay.
Yeah, I have yours that from the ebook I bought.
Oh, this is a new cover. You'll really like it.
All right. Well, I love your mast for Here Comes China with the little girl, in her graduation gown running across the schoolyard. That's absolutely priceless. Well, listen, this has been super. Good luck. Of course, you and I, we stay in touch. Godfrey is a member of the China Writers Group, and we stay in touch a lot. And the fact that we became very, very good friends, along with my wife Florence in Chiang Mai when we were living there for almost a year, and got to see each other quite a bit. So I hope we get to see each other soon through all this confinement and lockdown madness. I hope we can see each other again soon, either in Thailand or in France. And I know you like French food, and I know you like French cheese, and I know you like French wine. So I hope I not to mention French culture. So I hope you can come and visit us soon here on the beaches of Normandy, and would love to have you.
Looking forward to it, Jeff.
And I know Florence feels the same way. Well, listen, my friend, take care. As soon as I get this up, you can put it in Here Comes China. You can put our interview. And I will get it transcribed, but the guy I had is getting so expensive. I really struggle now. The guy I had was cheap, but now he's not working, and so it's difficult for me to budget for more pricey transcripts, but I will try to get this transcribed. All righty.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, my friend. Take care. Bye-bye. Have fun in Chiang Mai. We miss you there. We miss China. We miss Thailand, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
I look forward to it too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
China Rising Radio Sinoland and China Tech News Flash signing out. Please make a contribution to all of my hard work. Thank you.